information about the FBI agent dismissed from Robert Mueller's special counsel investigation. Over the weekend, we learned that this top counterintelligence expert was removed by Mueller after exchanging text messages that appeared to mock President Trump. And now, new CNN reporting, breaking right now, on the agent's role in the Hillary Clinton email probe. I want to bring in CNN's Laura Jarrett. And Laura, records show messages by this agent raised questions about whether or not justice was truly blind in the investigation into Hillary Clinton.
Well, Jake, sources we have learned from tell us that the electronic records show that Peter Strzok changed former FBI Director James Comey earlier draft language describing Clinton's actions in handling classified materials from, quote, grossly negligent to extremely careless. Now, this entire drafting process was a team effort at the FBI, we're told, as we reported last month after the news surfaced that the language had in fact been softened, that Comey and his colleagues had been playing with the language for some time. But the identity of the person who actually made the change had not been known until now. Take a listen to what Comey said, clearing the former Secretary of State back in 2016.
Although we did not find clear evidence that Secretary Clinton or her colleagues intended to violate laws governing the handling of classified information, there is evidence that they were extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive, highly classified information.
Now, this key shift from grossly negligent to extremely careless may seem like mere semantics, but it actually reflects a decision that the FBI could have had a potentially serious legal implication here, as the federal law that actually governs the handling of classified materials establishes criminal penalties for gross negligence. So the change there actually is legally significant. But from an optics standpoint, certainly the news of Strzok's direct role in this statement that ultimately cleared Clinton, combined with the fact that he was dismissed from special counsel Robert Mueller's team after exchanging these private messages with an FBI lawyer, could be seen as favoring Clinton politically, may now give further ammunition to those seeking ways to discredit special counsel Robert Mueller's Russia probe.
Joining us now, Alan Dershowitz, an emeritus professor at Harvard Law School, and in Washington, attorney Scott Bolden. Professor Dershowitz, let's start with you. This has been a wild day. The information that has come out just on Mr. Strzok, he was at Hillary's questioning, he was at Flynn's questioning, and now we find out that he actually had a number now of anti-Trump tweets, texts, that he sent out during the presidential debates. Michael Horowitz, the Inspector General at the Justice Department, should he release the text of those messages that apparently caused so much consternation? He was relieved of his duties.
Yes, I think he should, and I think that Strzok should have recused himself from the very beginning, and I think that Mueller was right to take him off the case. What I'm concerned about in your monologue is you're doing to Hillary Clinton exactly what the Democrats are trying to do to Donald Trump. You're trying to criminalize political differences. Look, I don't think Hillary Clinton committed any crimes. I think she was extremely careless. I think that was a decision that ultimately was made by Comey, not by one of his deputies. Maybe the deputy suggested it. But I think we have to stop criminalizing political differences on both sides. Hillary Clinton shouldn't be locked up. Donald Trump shouldn't be prosecuted for any crimes. If you don't like what they did, don't vote for them.
No, I get that point, Professor, but and Scott, we'll get you in just a moment. Here's the problem is that we have people in our military who are prosecuted for mishandling classified information fairly regularly. Civil servants who are prosecuted for mishandling classified information. To the regular person watching Fox right now, they say, okay, why is the Clinton dynamic always special? Why do they get special treatment here?
I don't think anybody in a position that Hillary Clinton is in has ever been prosecuted for anything like this, and that's what was said by Comey. And I think that's right. When you're in a position like Secretary of State and you have a lot of underlings working beneath you, it's very different than if you are your own officer in the Army and you take things home in clear violation of rules.
It's classified information.
You know, on the other side, I hear my friends on the other side are saying exactly the opposite, that the case against Hillary Clinton is non-existent and the case against Donald Trump is very strong.
Let's go to Scott.
I want to see a ceasefire on both sides.
Yeah, I got it. But, I mean, then there's nothing you can do as an elected official to mishandle classified information that would actually redound to becoming a criminal violation. But I get your point. You don't want to criminalize politics.
You have to show specific intent.
But, Scott, let's go to you. I think deleting a lot of emails shows specific intent. But, Scott, let's go to you. Let's start with Strzok, and let's reverse the tables here. Let's say in the Hillary Clinton email investigation, we find out that one of the main investigators was actually someone who was sending out texts to pals at the Justice Department that were anti-Hillary texts. Would you be on the show now fairly upset about that if it hadn't been at least revealed?
My position would be exactly the same. I agree with Professor Dershowitz. In this regard, you sound like, Laura, that this is the main investigator. He's making decisions on his own.
He was the number 2 guy in counter intel.
He may be, but there are layers and layers and checks and balances.
So you wouldn't have a problem with it, Scott? You wouldn't have a problem if the shoe were on the other foot, honestly?
I have a problem with it. He should be removed. It's an appearance issue in connection to this sensitive investigation, but it is not the end-all or be-all to whether the investigation ought to go away or whether it has been severely tainted. He has been removed. What else would you have Mueller do?
He was removed in July, 6 months, 5 months after he was there for the questioning of Michael Flynn.
And he
after
was not
we
alone
find out,
in those
only
questioning.
when the IG got the information, we found out about the text.
He was not making the final call.
Yeah.
And when they found out about the texts, he was removed to an HR position.
Yeah, that's ironic, Professor Dershowitz. He's at HR now.
That's as much as you can do.
That's okay.
He's
All
not
alone.
alone.
He should have recused himself, and I think he should be severely punished for not recusing himself on his own. He knew that he had a bias. He knew about these emails.
The Democrats would be,
Alan,
the Democrats would be going bananas if the shoe were on the other foot. I'm sorry, they'd be going crazy about this, and I really think they would have. And it's not right. On either side, Scott, it's not right. All right, let's move on to obstruction. Professor Dershowitz, your old pal, Jonathan Turley, was on Special Report earlier tonight saying this. Let's watch.
I'm afraid I have to disagree with my friend Alan on that. I've always taken the view that a president could be charged with obstruction. But in fairness to Alan and Mr. Dowd, the president's attorney, this is a good faith question. You know, the professors use this as a parlor game for years of whether a sitting president could be indicted, the meaning of emoluments, whether you can self-pardon. It just happens that this administration seems on course to answer all of them.
Professor Dershowitz, back to this question about obstruction. And the president.
He doesn't have my view correctly. He doesn't have my view correctly. Of course, a president can be charged with obstruction of justice. Nixon was, and Clinton was. But in order to be charged with obstruction of justice, you have to go beyond simply exercising a presidential prerogative under Article 2 of the Constitution. If you bribe or take a bribe, if you destroy evidence, if you do what Nixon did, which is pay hush money or tell your subordinates to lie, of course you can be charged with obstruction of justice. But you cannot be and should not be charged with obstruction of justice if you merely pardon people, you merely fire people, even if the prosecution believes your intentions are not good. That's what George H.W. Bush did. He pardoned Caspar Weinberger and 5 other people. The special prosecutor said the intent was to stop the investigation of Iran-Contra. It succeeded, and nobody suggested that President Bush
let's unpack that for a second. I'm glad that Professor Dershowitz has said that you can be prosecuted because that's what the impeachment process in the Constitution talks about. But if the president has corruptible intent, if he fired Comey and he asked him to lay off Flynn to protect himself or to do anything that was corruptible intent so that he would not be prosecuted or impeached, then he certainly can be gone after and prosecuted, be it at the state level, be it the political prosecution of the House of Representatives, and then afterwards he can certainly be prosecuted. But listen, there are a lot of these concepts and precepts that need to be tested in the courts. There's a great disagreement about it, but no one is above the law. And if he took out a gun and murdered somebody or raped or stole from
come
someone,
on.
I must tell you, but it's not that far-fetched in the sense that
Not that
if he can't be
far-fetched. President
hold on,
murdering
if
and
he
raping
can't be
someone isn't far-fetched.
prosecuted,
What are you
if he
talking about?
can't be-
Let's be
if he-
clear.
Let me
I
make
have
my
What are you
never
talking
said
about,
that a
Scott?
president.
Point.
You
I
lost
have
me on that
never
one.
said that
Professor,
a
wrap it up.
He
president-
can't be prosecuted for obstruction
I
of
have
justice.
never
He can't be
said that a
prosecuted for any other
president can't
crime.
be
The
charged
president
with
can
Yeah, hold on,
obstruction
Scott.
of
I think
justice.
and be
this is a
prosecuted.
distinction that Professor Dershowitz wants to make. Go ahead.
I have never said a president can't be charged with obstruction. He's not above the law, but he can't be charged with obstruction merely for exercising his constitutional prerogatives. That's an important distinction. No president in history has ever been charged for any crime or anything because he exercised his constitutional prerogative. They impeached President Johnson for doing that, and the Supreme Court ultimately ruled that that was absolutely wrong. The president had the authority to fire the Secretary of the Army.
All right, we gotta
and
go.
He was impeached for that and
Well, I don't
wrongly
disagree
impeached.
All
with
right,
that at
Scott,
all. In
we'll have
fact,
you
I
back.
think
We'll have
we're
you
on the
back.
same
Both of
page
you have
there.
made great points tonight. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.